Hi there, Lee Farnell here from Leading Your Best Life. This topic today is just a ripper because we're talking about being happy. Being happy. Stay with me. Well, this topic has come about because a number of things are going on in my mind, but it really got sparked by turning on the TV this morning, and the first thing when I'm having my smoothie for breakfast is that's after my swim down the beach. And by the way, this morning was just unbelievable. Beautiful pink sky, great people, plenty of laugh, and swimming into a northerly chop, which gave it an extra bit of resistance. But as they say, what doesn't break you makes you stronger. The water was about 16 degrees, so refreshing indeed. I had a wetsuit on, but some of the people were even braver. Carlene from Canada, Dr. Phil, and Rachel, the Derwent River swimmer, who, by the way, is going to swim for 24 hours doing butterfly to raise money for men's mental health in November. What a superstar. Anyway, that's all beside the beside. What I wanted to talk to you about was happiness. Happiness. I first of all watched a YouTube clip of what Mick Jagger does to stay so fit and healthy at age 80. Age 80, what a guy. Needless to say, it's a system and it's a process that he uses, exercise, diet, etc., etc. In other words, he takes responsibility to be healthy. The other thing that then came up was an article, a story. I'll put the link in this podcast of world's most happy countries. The world's most happy countries. Now, the United Nations does a study and puts out a report each year on the world's most happy countries. And again, for the fourth year in a row, Finland is number one. Denmark is number two. So Finland was 7.84. Denmark 7.62, Switzerland 7.51, Iceland, Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Luxembourg, then New Zealand 7.2, Austria 7.268, Australia is there after New Zealand. We never like being after New Zealand, but at least we're somewhere near the top 10. I think we're 11th. Then Israel, then Germany, then Canada, then Ireland, then Costa Rica, then the United Kingdom, then the Czech Republic, and then the United States of America, the greatest country in the world. The greatest country in the world is way down there. I can't even count how far, but it's below Costa Rica. I'm sure the Americans don't really like the idea of being below Costa, but at least you're ahead of Belgium and France and Malta and Taiwan, boys and girls, Americans, Uncle Sam people. No, there's many things we love about Americans, their innovation and Jerry Seinfeld and Elvis Presley and Foo Fighters, although hang on, Foo Fighters, yeah, I think they're American. He's very close to Canada, the Foo Fighters. But Dave, anyway, that's a whole other story. There's a great story on SBS interviewing people in Finland. Why are people in Finland so happy? And the first thing they say is, well, first of all, we don't make a big deal about being happy. In fact, they've got a word for it. I've got to find it, sister or salsa or something like that. Insert, here it is. I've found the word and I recorded this little piece to explain it to you. Fantastic word, sisu. Okay, the word I was looking for, the Finnish use to really is at the centre of why they're so happy, is a word called sisu, S-I-S-U, the Finnish concept of inner strength and refusal to give up into your life. This is from an article on Country Living, but again, it's talked about in the World Happiness Report as they might call it backbone or spunk, stamina, guts or drive or perseverance. I'll just read a couple of bits of this. According to This is Finland, the word sisu comes from the Finnish root word that implies inner or inside. This is one reason that sometimes translated to either guts or inner strength. Finlandia University sums it up perfectly, saying sisu has a mystical, almost magical meaning. Sisu is not momentary courage, but the ability to sustain that courage, sustained courage. It stands for the philosophy that what must be done will be done, regardless of the cost. In other words, you're going to get onto it. Sisu is an inherent characteristic of the Finnish people. You might call it backbone, spunk, stamina, guts or drive and perseverance. It's a measure of integrity that surpasses the hardship and sees through to the end. A word to actually encompass inner strength, inner perseverance. How fantastic. I literally want to talk about this in the next podcast, but what an important characteristic that could help all of us deal with the many trials and tribulations of modern life, and certainly help each and every one of us lead our best life. Great article. And the first thing they say is, well, first of all, we don't make a big deal about being happy. Don't have super high expectations. Now, you talk to the Americans, what? What are you saying? You've got to be a winner. You've got to have the most. You've got to have gold all through your house. You've got to be at the top story of the penthouse, because at the penthouse is where all the action is. Sorry, am I doing a bad imitation of a certain person running for president? The whole world of winners and losers, which, by the way, when they do studies on Americans and even Australians, most Americans don't have $300 or $400 in their bank account. Now, I got to say, in 2010 we played water polo in Sweden, and I was blown away by, first of all, we went to Denmark and Copenhagen, then went up to Stockholm and Göteborg, and then we played water polo in Borås. And first of all, the people are happy. If anything, they're mildly stoic, but they're happy. And the other thing is they're proud of their health system. They're proud of their libraries. They're proud of their child rearing. They're proud of their maternal, paternal leave. They're proud of a whole lot of things. And in fact, they don't go on and on about who's the wealthiest. When you look at this article in Finland, they say you can be driving through the rich suburb and you can be driving through the poor suburb and you won't know the difference. They use a term that I haven't really come across a lot, but I love it, is status anxiety. They don't suffer from status anxiety. Status anxiety. I should have more. I want to be richer than them. I mean, certainly as soon as I think of this, there's people we know in our own circle of connections who they had to have the biggest house on the river, and every time the husband and wife go overseas, she's got to get more jewellery. I mean, she just doesn't have enough fingers on her hands to put all the jewellery that she actually owns, because she's got the biggest and she's got the best, and what a winner she is. And you know what? If you actually went in the internal world, ask anyone who knows this person, she's the saddest, saddest, angriest person that we know. She's angry about this, she's angry about that, she's not happy with this, she's not happy with that, not happy with her husband, not happy with her car, not happy with people around her, not happy with the food at the restaurant. I don't know, it's status anxiety, but it's certainly something missing in the internal world. So why am I saying this? Well, first of all, ask yourself about your own status anxiety. Literally, I was in the change rooms this morning after the swim, and these guys were talking about who had what job and who had what money and whose kid was doing really well because they were now on their third investment property. But the only problem was they had to work longer hours because now they had to get a promotion to earn more money. And I kept thinking as I was watching this show on the world's happiest countries and Finland talking about, forget status anxiety. Take ego out of the equation. As one person said, so that when you have your net worth linked to your self-worth, then, well, as the woman on the TV show said, she used to live in Sydney and she just got so sick of people constantly in Sydney talking about real estate and who lived where and who had what job and who had what income and who was driving what car, that it's almost you're unconscious to the language and the thinking of the subtle or not so subtle discussions around status. I'll never forget talking with friends at one stage, and they were talking about other friends who didn't have enough, the same amount of money in superannuation that they did, and what losers they were because they didn't have that amount of super, and it was a real disaster. Now, there's no doubt we need to be planning for our retirement. There's no doubt we need to be saving and all of those things. But when you start to use it as a status symbol of I'm better than you, I'm more important than you, I have more worth than you, and I remember even one of my clients at one stage talking about he's of substance and he's not of much substance. Think about that. He's of substance. He's a substantial person. He has substantial wealth. And they start using substance versus not much substance. How subtle it is, how it's like rising damp. You're not even conscious of status and status anxiety. Yet, when you start to look at countries where people are happy, well, it's not about status, or it's not about substance, or it's not even about net worth. It's about the community and the ecosystem and how supportive and loving and lack of status. Check out this show. It really is fantastic. So I just want to talk about that today, because the link between happiness and lack of status anxiety. So the people in Finland actually have a term for it, which I'll dig up. I'll dig it up later. But interestingly enough, the other thing about Finland was the swimming in the cold water in the morning in the lake, and then sitting in the sauna, which they call a sauna. The sauna. They said there's probably more saunas or saunas in Finland than there are people, because it's central to, and again, the calming impact, the bringing down of the sympathetic nervous system, the activation of serotonin and dopamine, and how that cardiovascular, cardiorespiratory dynamics that go on with the cold water almost taking your breath away, but they're so happy in the water, just like we were this morning. So I'm going to do another podcast shortly, because a note that actually came up in my meditation this morning was taking responsibility for your resilience, how to be resilient. Here we're talking about how to not be resilient, although it's certainly part of it, how to be happy, and forget status, because you know what, as Sadhguru says, we're all going to end up in the same place, and there are no trailers brought into cemeteries. There's just a body in a box that after a very short period of time is either going to quickly turn to ash and back to the dirt and back to the sand, or it's going to sit in a box for the next 10, 20, 30 years and slowly deteriorate back to the sand. So eventually you turn back to grains of sand. Forget status, Donald Trump or whoever, those that are linked to net worth, self-worth, winners, losers, status, ego, winners, go on and on. If you're talking about leading your best life, then live for today. Be happy with where you're at. Be grateful for what's around you. Your kids, your grandkids, your desk, your chair, the food you had for breakfast or lunch or dinner, the touch of your partner's hand, the cuddle you just had or the hug you just had with your grandkid or your husband or your wife or your friend. They're the things that make life happy. Thanks for listening. I'm Lee Farnell. This is Leading Your Best Life. If you like what we're talking about, please do share it with friends. Spread the word. See you soon. I'm Lee Farnell.